welcome to today's Children's University Masterclass. And it's a science masterclass today. And we're going to be focusing on plants. And the reason that we're going to look at plants today is we're really used to seeing plants everywhere in our world. I'm guessing that if you're sitting anywhere near a window, you can glance out of your window and you can see plants all around you. I'm sure you'll see some sort of plant if you look out of a window. They're all over the place. It's very easy for us to take plants for granted. What we're going to look at today is how they're not only incredibly important to us, probably one of the most important things in the world, but they're also amazing. They're really interesting. So hopefully we can explore that today. So we're going to look at plants. People spend whole lifetimes studying plants, so we're only just going to be able to look at a bit of a snapshot. We're going to think about what plants are and what it is that make plants unique. What is it about plants that makes them special? And we're going to look at a few examples of some individual plants, and we're going to look at their surprising and sometimes incredible characteristics to give us a flavor for the things that plants, the character of plants. And then finally, I'm going to share some ideas with you for some simple plant activities, hopefully fun activities that you can do at home. Okay, so we're going to get started firstly by thinking, what are plants? Now, as I say, you look out your window, we take them for granted. We see them in our everyday lives. We don't often think about what they are. So let's start off by thinking, what are plants? Well, the first thing I'd say about plants is there is an incredible variety of plants. They're all plants, but they're incredibly different, and they range from the biggest living things on Earth, which are the giant redwoods. They can grow up to, I think the proper name for them is sequoia, and they can grow up to 80 meters tall. That is just, I've never seen one. You may have even seen one in America, but 80 meters tall is absolutely colossal. That's the same size as a tall building. Huge, massive circumference to their trunks. So they're the biggest living things on Earth. They range from giant redwoods plants to ones that you need a microscope to see. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see tiny mosses, little tiny mosses. To see them properly, you'd at least need a hand lens. Some plants you need a microscope to see. But then you've got the whole thing of, like, they range from, you know, flowers, lovely, colourful flowers. You get grasslands, huge areas where it's one type of plant. They live on top of water, like those water lilies you can see, and they live underwater. So, you know, any stream or pond or lake or river or sea will have lots of plants growing in it. And they come in all wonderful, weird and wonderful shapes and sizes, like those cacti that you can see at the right hand of the screen. So if we're thinking about what are plants, where it covers a huge variety of things. The other thing I'd say about plants is they're everywhere, aren't they? They're everywhere. You can see them, as I say, you'll be able to see them at your own window, but they're in every environment on Earth, on our planet. So you find plants in the hottest, driest deserts, and you'll also find them in really cold regions like the Arctic. You'll find them in very dry regions like the African savanna, and you can see one of those baobab trees there with an elephant standing next to it. They have a huge trunk which helps them store water through the dry season. And then you've got, if you look at where that waterfall is, that's in a tropical rainforest, absolutely colossal forests full of a huge variety of plants. You can see plants there growing underneath the sea. The sort of plants, daffodils, I don't know if you've seen any daffodils this spring. It's a lovely year for daffodils. They're everywhere. So, you know, we can see them in our gardens, in our parks, on hedgerows, on farms. If you think about plants on farms, they have human beings to look after them, really, don't they? We dig the soil for them, we plant them, we water them, we give them food. You know, we're sort of almost like the servants. And you can see a farm there full of a wheat field. They also grow all over our cities. The plant that you can see growing out of that building there is a buddleia. Sometimes they're called butterfly bushes because butterflies do like them. And they grow quite happily in the cracks between bricks. Quite often you'll see them in derelict buildings. Next time you're in a city like Liverpool or Manchester, have a look around, tall old buildings. Good chance you'll see a buddleia growing. They also grow at the side of railway lines. They grow everywhere, cracks in the pavement to forests, you know, so plants are absolutely everywhere. So if we're thinking about plants, we've got a huge variety of them and they're everywhere on our planet. What makes them special? What makes a plant from a giant redwood to a microscopic moss? What is it they all have in common? Well, the thing that they have in common is this incredible trick that they do. And that is the trick of using sunlight, water, some minerals that are in the soil, and carbon dioxide from the air to make their food. All the plants you see, whether you go to America and see a giant redwood, or whether you look at a little dandelion growing in a crack in the pavement, or the grass on your lawn, they're all doing this process of making food using sunlight, water, minerals from the soil, and carbon dioxide from the air. That's what they're all doing all day long, anytime the sun shines, all over the planet. And that's what makes a plant a plant. The proper name for this process is photosynthesis, which sounds like a bit of a mouthful. Photosynthesis, the photo in photosynthesis is about light, and the synthesis means changing. So it's around the, as I say, this trick that plants do of changing light, particularly sunlight, together with some carbon dioxide, water, and some minerals from the soil, into sugars, which is their energy that they need to grow. And they can also store some of the energy. So for example, in seeds, and the oxygen that they give off as a waste product, believe it or not. That's, you know, it's not really pollution, is it? Putting oxygen back into the air. So the proper name for this trick that they do is photosynthesis. And it's not really a trick, it's a chemical reaction that plants do. They're little chemical factories. In every plant's leaves, there are little microscopic things called chloroplasts. And those chloroplasts are, as I say, little chemical factories, and they are doing this chemical reaction called photosynthesis. And they do it all day long, quietly, without any fuss. I think to really appreciate, and it's probably the most important chemical reaction on Earth, to appreciate what they do and how quiet and unassuming it is. If you compared them to a human chemical plant, the sort of factory that we use to make chemicals. I don't know if you've seen the ICI factory in Runcorn, but you know, factories like that all over the world, miles and miles of pipes and tanks and chimneys, and you get smoke and steam coming out and all kinds of funny toxic wastes. Plants do this incredible chemical reaction themselves inside their leaves, inside these tiny little chloroplasts, and they do it without you knowing they're doing it. And the only waste product from it is oxygen. So it's an incredible trick that all plants do. In a little bit, we're going to look at how important photosynthesis is to all life on Earth. Before we do that, let's have a think about how long plants have been around. How long have they been around on Earth doing this fantastic trick of photosynthesis? So have a guess. Is it 50 million years? 180,000 years? 1.5 billion years? Or is it 2.4 billion years? Any ideas? You can put your ideas on the chat if you want. Just have a guess. I'll give you a minute to think about that. How long have plants been around for? What do you think? Well, don't know if you got it right, but the answer is 2.4 billion years. So they've been around for an incredibly long time, much, 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 much longer than human beings, for example. 2.4 billion is 2.4 thousand million. It just, you can't really visualize how long that is. 2.4 billion years. So they've been around for a long, long time. How many species of plants do you think there are? How many species? How many different types of plants? See if you can have a guess. So is it 750? Is it 390,000? Is it 580,000? Or is it 2 million? What do you think? Lots of different types of plants, aren't there? How many do you think? It's actually 390,000. I don't know if you got that one. 390,000 different sorts of plants. What I'd say is they're just the ones we know about. We're discovering new sorts of plants all the time. And sadly, plants are becoming extinct mainly because of the impact of human beings on Earth. But around about 390,000. So there are loads and loads of different varieties of plants. But they all do that trick, that chemical reaction of photosynthesis. So let's go back and think about why are they so important, and particularly that chemical reaction that they do, photosynthesis. Well, firstly, we need plants to breathe. Plants make oxygen in the atmosphere. Before plants appeared on Earth, there was hardly any oxygen in the atmosphere at all, hardly any. The only types of life on Earth, if you go back to that 2.4 billion years ago, and it's an incredible long time ago, the only sort of life, there was life on Earth, but it was microscopic, and it was the sort of life that didn't need oxygen to survive. You'd needed a spacesuit to survive on the surface of the Earth before plants arrived. It would have been like in the way that you need a spacesuit on the moon or on Mars. There was no oxygen for us to breathe. The thing that made the oxygen to enable us to breathe air from the atmosphere on Earth is plants. And that started from 2.4 billion years ago. That's not an exact figure, obviously, it's not exactly when plants, but that gives you a roundabout figure of when they arrived on Earth. And they slowly changed the atmosphere and put more and more oxygen into the atmosphere. And that enabled much bigger animals and more interesting animals to develop. They couldn't have developed without the oxygen that plants put in the atmosphere. So everything from, your dinosaurs, your mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, right up to human beings, we've all relied on the oxygen that plants put into Earth's atmosphere for us. So they completely changed the atmosphere of the Earth. The other thing, if you look at the picture on the top right of your screen, is they're essential for the Earth's climate. They stop it from heating up too much. And they do that because they take in, when they do photosynthesis, they take in carbon dioxide through their leaves. And carbon dioxide is what's known as a greenhouse gas because it traps the sun's heat in the Earth's atmosphere and makes the Earth and the Earth's atmosphere warm up. And if you have too much carbon dioxide, the Earth's climate warms up, and it is warming up at present. So plants not only gave us the climate that we want for life on Earth to flourish, but they're also helping us to limit the damage that human beings are doing to the Earth's atmosphere. Without the work that they do, taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen, the Earth's climate, it would heat up out of control. So plants give us the oxygen that we need to breathe. They help us, they help stabilize the climate and give us a climate that we can live in and flourish in. The other thing that they're essential for is food. We wouldn't have any food that we need to eat without plants. And the way that works is plants use the energy from the sun, as I say, to make their own food. It's the food that they need to grow themselves and that they store in their leaves. Now, lots of animals just eat plants. They're called herbivores. So if you look at the bottom left of your screen, you can see huge herds of wildebeest in Africa. They're all herbivores, like cows or sheep, everything from dormice to elephants are herbivores. So loads of animals are herbivores. They just get all their food from eating plants. So obviously they rely on plants for their food. But even animals that are carnivores, like the lions, you can see, lions don't eat plants. They eat meat, but the meat that they eat is herbivores. So even lions, even carnivores, and all the other animals, everything from weasels, sharks, lions that are carnivores, they need plants to give the food to the herbivores so that they can eat the herbivores to get their food. So, you know, I've put a human there. You can see a human being in the bottom right. If we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have anything to eat. We wouldn't have any meat, but we wouldn't have any of the vegetables and other things that we rely on plants for. You know, all life, even the bees, you can see taking pollen from your flowers. We all rely on plants for our food. So we need plants for the air that we breathe. We need plants for the climate of the whole planet, and we need plants for our food. So they're absolutely essential. What I want you to do is just take a minute and think about some of the other things that plants bring into our lives. What else do we get from plants? It might be things that we need and that are useful for us, but it also might be things that we enjoy. So just take a minute and think, what do plants bring to our lives? Just have a think, and you can put stuff on chat if you'd like to. Yeah, plants bring all kinds of things, everything from, for example, wood to make things out of. You probably look around in your house, you'll probably see lots of furniture and other things made of wood. So really useful plants are, but they bring us lots of pleasure, don't they? You think of flowers, just the sight of flowers or the smell of them. If you think of a forest and trees, shade from the sun, and just the pleasure that you get from being in a forest, could be grass for you to play games on or sit on. So plants they're essential for our lives, but they also bring a lot of other things as well to our lives. They really give us, you know, lovely things that we can enjoy. Okay, right. I'm going to share with you now some plants that have amazing characteristics. So we've got a foxglove, or some foxgloves. You might have seen those. You do see them in gardens and in the countryside in Britain. Some moss you find everywhere on stones and walls and things. Kelp is a type of seaweed that grows under the sea. You've got a yew tree, you can see there. Something called a pitcher plant, you find those in rainforests. And a palm tree, a type of palm tree called coco de mer. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to tell you an amazing thing that one of these plants has, or an amazing characteristic, a surprising characteristic. Let's see if you can guess which one has that characteristic. So, firstly, which one do you think could be used as a bandage and has been used as a bandage? Any ideas? Is it foxglove, moss, kelp, yew tree, pitcher plant, or coco de mer? Which one can be used as a bandage? Have a guess. Okay, and the answer is moss, believe it or not. It's amazing. I didn't really know this until I did this the work for this mini masterclass. But moss apparently has been used as a bandage throughout history, right up until the soldiers in World War I used moss as a bandage to help heal their wounds. And the reason is that it's got antiseptic qualities, so it actually helps fight infection. It has chemicals in it that help fight infection. The other thing with moss is it does all kinds of things. Reindeers that live on the edge of the Arctic and in the Arctic, they eat a particular type of moss that helps warm up their blood. It's got almost like a natural antifreeze. So moss, a little unassuming plant, grows everywhere, hard to notice, well worth looking at it through a hand lens because it's a beautiful little plant when you look at it, when you magnify it. But it's got these antiseptic qualities. You can use it as a bandage. Okay, here's a funny one. Which one is known to have eaten frogs and rats? Which one of those? Now we know it's not moss, but is it foxgloves? Is it kelp? Is it yew? A yew tree? Is it a pitcher plant, or is it the coco de mer palm tree? And it's been known to eat frogs and even rats. You never think of plants eating things, but some of them do. You do get carnivorous plants, and this plant is a carnivorous plant. And it is the pitcher plant, believe it or not. The pitcher plant mainly, I've got to say, mainly eats insects. But as I say, it's been known to even eat animals like frogs and rats. It grows in the tropics, tropical rainforests. And the way it eats its prey is, you can see those, if you look at those sort of almost like vases or jugs, they're quite brightly coloured, and that attracts insects to them, maybe some animals. If the edge, that rim of the pitcher is very, very slippy. So if something lands on that, they fall down into the pitcher, and it has a little pool of liquid at the bottom. They might try and climb out, but the sides of the inside are so slippy, it's virtually impossible for an insect or even a little animal to climb out. And what happens is they die in there, and the plant digests them, and they use the minerals from mainly insects that fall in there, because they grow in places where the soil doesn't have all the minerals that they need. So they take them from those insects or little animals that they catch. So pitcher plant has been known to eat things, believe it or not. Yeah, there are lots of carnivorous plants all over the world. You even get carnivorous plants called sundew growing in parts of Britain. They're only little tiny things, and they eat midges and little tiny flies. Okay. So we're narrowing it down now. Which one can grow up to 30 centimeters per day? Up to 30 centimeters each day. So which one? Is it a foxglove? Is it kelp? Is it a yew tree? Or is it coco de mer? 30 centimeters. Imagine if you grew 30 centimeters per day. Which one grows that quickly? Okay, well, it's kelp. Don't know if you got that, but it's kelp. Kelp is a sort of seaweed, and it can grow. It grows incredibly quickly, grows all over the world, and we use it in lots of products, believe it or not, including things like toothpaste, shampoo, salad dressing, all use things that we get from kelp. The individual leaves of kelp, they're called fronds. They can grow to over 30 meters long, so they grow incredibly tall under the sea, and they have little air sacs in them that mean that they float up and stay upright, and they grow in these huge forests. Lots of fish and animals live in these kelp forests under the sea. So things like seals and as well as all the fish, seals, sea lions, sea otters. So they're really important habitats. They're like undersea forests, kelp. So they grow incredibly quickly. Okay, so we're narrowing it down now. Which one produces seeds that can weigh up to 25 kilograms? That's very heavy. Kilogram, that's sort of bag of sugar, 25 of them, and measure up to 0.5 meter long. So is it the yew tree? Is it foxgloves? Or is it coco de mer? Produces these colossal seeds. I bet lots of you got this. It's the coco de mer. It's that palm tree. We usually think of seeds as being really small things. You think of seeds, something where you could have, a number of seeds in the palm of your hand. But the cocoa de mer palm tree produces these huge seeds. And believe it or not, they're prized by collectors. People pay anything between £500 and £2,000 for a seed from a cocoa de mer, these colossal seeds. Unfortunately, too many of those seeds have been harvested, so they're getting quite rare, those cocoa de mer plants. Massive seeds. Now, we've only got the yew tree and foxgloves left to guess from, haven't we? So which one of those can both kill you and cure you? Is it a foxglove or is it a yew tree? It can kill you, but it can also cure you. 50% chance of getting this right. It's the foxglove. Foxgloves, and as I say, they're quite a common plant. They contain a chemical called digitalis, and that's used in heart medicines, believe it or not. It can help with things like heart failure and high blood pressure. However, if it isn't used correctly, and you've got to be careful with lots of plants with how you handle them, because they do contain chemicals that can be harmful. It can be poisonous, and it can affect your heart and even kill you. If you think about it, though, if you look at foxgloves, all of this, poisonous quality doesn't bother bees. They love to climb in the flowers of foxgloves to collect nectar and pollen. They go right inside. So foxgloves are, like lots and lots and lots of plants, are used in medicine, but also like lots of plants, you have to be careful about how you handle them, because they can be poisonous. Which leaves us to the yew tree. So the fantastic fact about the yew tree is how long they're able to live for. Yew trees are thought to be able to live for about 3,000 years. 3,000 years. So a yew tree, and you can see yew trees all over the UK, that can live to be 3,000 years old. They do think a lot of the yew trees that you see around Britain are more like 1,500 years old. That's still pretty old. So what an incredibly ancient being a yew tree is. You quite often find yew trees in ancient churchyards, in an old churchyard. And as I say, you can see them around the UK. There may even be one, some yew trees growing near to where you live. They're huge as well. You can see how big the trunk is. They can grow up to 10 meters around the trunk. That's colossal. The wood from yew trees was really important in the Middle Ages because it was used to make a particular sort of bow for bows and arrows called a longbow. And soldiers who fired those longbows used to win battles. They were the top weapon in the Middle Ages. They could fire arrows huge distances and incredibly powerfully, and they made them out of the wood from yew trees. If you think about it, those even the younger yew trees, the ones that are only 1,500 years old, they would have started life just after the Romans left Britain, and when England was divided up into little Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. So imagine what they've seen in terms of history. If you got the older ones that lived up to 3,000 years old, they would have started life around the Bronze Age. So even before people were using iron tools and iron weapons in Britain, that's incredibly old. So plants have this amazingly long lifespan, some plants. Okay, so I find, and they're only just a selection of plants, there are lots and lots and lots and lots of plants that have incredibly amazing characteristics. They're just a few. You don't have to go to tropical rainforests and things like that to find plants that are really surprising. Dandelions, I'll bet you can find dandelions really close to where you live. I bet there'll be dandelions in your schools, on your school sites, or if you've got a field in your school. They're all over the place. We get them in lawns, in our gardens. We get them growing up between the pavements. You'll see them on grass verges. You'll see them on playing fields and grass. They're everywhere. We spend an awful lot of time, human beings, trying to get rid of dandelions. We say they're weeds. I actually think they're really nice flowers. They're nice, bright, bright looking little flowers. Between the battle between humans and dandelions are going to win every time. And the reason is because they're so good at producing seeds. So each flower in a dandelion can produce more than 150 seeds. So each one of those yellow puffball flowers produces more than 150 seeds. And you'll have all seen that, you know, the round puffball of seeds that dandelions produce. And each plant can produce up to 10 flowers. So that's about 1,500 seeds from each dandelion plant. That's pretty amazing. But the thing with those seeds is they're so good at traveling long distances to make new plants and to spread to new areas. And the way that they do it, and I'm sure you've done this by blowing these dandelion puffballs, is each seed is carried on a little parachute, a special little parachute. Apparently the parachutes that carry dandelion seeds are 4 times more efficient. They're 4 times as good as the parachutes that human beings make, you know, for people to drop out of airplanes. So they work fantastically well, and they can carry seeds really long distances. Dandelion seeds can survive being, you know, for periods underwater. They can even survive by being eaten by birds, and they grow from bird poo. So they're amazing things, dandelion seeds. They grow all over the place. The other thing with dandelions, and, you know, I've had this experience myself trying to dig them out of my lawn. They have this big, thick root, and you can see it down on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, called a taproot. If you leave a little bit of that taproot in the ground, if you don't get every single bit out, it'll grow again into a new plant. So, you know, there's not many animals who could do that trick. If they chop them up into little pieces, those little pieces will grow into a new living thing. But dandelions can do that. The other thing with dandelions is you can eat them. Now, you've got to be careful which dandelions you eat, because, you know, if you go to a field or something, they might have been sprayed with stuff to try and control them. So be careful what you eat, where you eat them. But you can eat dandelion leaves. You can have them in salads. Apparently, you can even make dandelion root tea out of dandelion roots. Haven't tried that one. Nettles. I bet you've all been stung by a nettle. Nettles are really common, aren't they? They grow all over the place in patches of wild ground. And we know them as, sometimes we call them stinging nettles, because they do sting. They don't do that because they're nasty or, you know, or horrible. They do it to protect themselves. But the way that they do it is, stings are from these little tiny hairs you can see in the picture there. And each one of those hairs is almost like a mini syringe. Like, you know, if you go to a hospital and you have an injection, it's from a syringe. Well, each of those hairs are like a mini syringe. They're incredibly sharp. So they pierce your skin, they break, and the chemicals that they contain, which irritate your skin, then go under your skin, and they make it sting, they make it itch, and it goes into little bumps. I got some nettle stings the other day trying to pull them out of my garden. So that's quite fresh in my mind. So nettles, you know, they're really tough customers. They produce those stings, and they're very clever the way that they use those sharp little mini hairs, like mini syringes. But believe it or not, you can eat nettles. You've got to, if you harvest them, you've got to be careful. You've got to do it with gloves on. But when you cook them, they don't sting anymore, and you can make really nice soup from nettles. And I've done it, and it is nice. It's really nice. I did a recipe, nettle and sweet potato soup. You'll find a recipe for it on the internet. Be careful how you harvest them. Any sort of plants that you eat out of the wild, you've got to be really careful where you get them from, because they may have been sprayed with something. But if you've got a patch of nettles in your garden and not been sprayed for anything, harvest them while they're young, and you can use them to make really nice soup. Now, the other thing is, they're really important for butterflies, believe it or not. So some of the lovely colourful butterflies that we get in the UK, like peacocks and red admirals, lay their eggs on nettles. And when the eggs hatch out, the caterpillars eat the nettle leaves. I don't know how they avoid being stung. They must have adapted in some way to avoid being stung, but nettles are really important for those beautiful butterflies that we get in the UK. So plants are essential for us to life on Earth. Life wouldn't have developed in the way that we know it. The Earth would have been completely different. As I say, you'd have needed a spacesuit if you landed on the Earth, but human beings wouldn't have developed, and all the animals and that live on Earth wouldn't have developed without plants putting oxygen in the atmosphere. We couldn't survive without plants. They give us the oxygen that we need to breathe, they control the climate, and they give us all of the food. And it's that trick called photosynthesis of making food from sunlight. How clever is that? It's amazing, isn't it? They're all doing it. Every single plant that you can see, every green plant is doing that. I hope that I've at least given you some idea of how, not only how important plants are, but how amazing they are. And I've only just really scratched the surface with it, but they are absolutely amazing. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to send out some follow-on activities that you can do, just little plant activities at home. So all of these, you'll get the instructions, but I'll just whiz through them. Don't know if you've ever done this one before, but I used to do this when I was little, and that was some years ago. Carrot tops. Next time someone in your family is cooking with carrots, get them to save you the tops of the carrot, say maybe, you know, a couple of centimeters off the top of the carrot. And what you have to do is you place that in a saucer and you pour water in the saucer, not to cover it, so it's about halfway up your carrot top, and you have to keep the water topped up. The water will evaporate, so you have to now and again top it up to keep it around that level. Don't want to cover it, just halfway up. And what will happen is your carrot top will sprout and it'll grow. It'll grow leaves and it'll grow stems, carrot leaves and carrot stems. You might even get it too. Sometimes it'll grow and flower, you know, to get a white flower. It won't grow into a carrot again. You only get one go with the carrot. Believe it or not, again, you can eat those carrot tops. You can snip the leaves into salads. They taste carroty, got a really nice taste. Have a go with carrot tops. You can do that. You leave them on a sunny windowsill, by the way. So you don't need a garden or that. All you need is a windowsill and a saucer and a carrot top. Cress heads, they're a nice thing to do. So next time you have a boiled egg or somebody has a boiled egg, save the shell. And you can, sometimes it's a good idea to wash it in a bit of warm, soapy water, just in case it's got any sort of grease on the outside. When you've done that, if you dry it, you can draw your face or decorate it with your felt tip pens. Put some cotton wool inside, and you need cress seeds to grow your cress heads. You can get cress seeds from, you know, supermarkets. You can get them from garden centres, but you don't need to go to a garden centre. You can get them from a supermarket or discount shops. You can find cress seeds there. Little tiny fine seeds. They're not as big as a cocoa de mer seed by any stretch of the imagination. Sprinkle a few, with your cotton wool, moisten your cotton wool, sprinkle a few cress seeds on top, and they will sprout. You've got to keep your cotton wool moist. You don't want to wash the cress seeds off it, so carefully, don't drown it. Don't fill your egg full of water, but just keep it moist. As long as you keep it moist, and again, leave it somewhere in the light, it'll grow into, it's like your cress heads, sprouts hair. I could do with some of that myself, really. It grows really quickly. And when it gets to about 3 centimeters, you can snip that off. Cress is really nice, again, in salads, or you can put it in your sandwiches. So cress heads, that's fun to do. Nasturtiums are a really nice, colourful plants. Nice big, yellow, red, orange flowers, and they're easy to grow. They grow and they're quite happy in poor soil, nasturtiums. So you can plant them if you've got a patch in your garden, or you can plant them in pots. Don't put too many seeds in a pot. Just fill your pot full of soil or full of compost. Always use peat-free compost. You don't want to use compost with peat in it. And just push the seeds down about 1 centimetre or so under the surface. Keep it watered but not drowned, and your plants will grow. If it's too overcrowded, you don't want to overcrowd your pot. You don't want to put too many in. If it's too overcrowded when they start, pull out the ones that aren't doing very well and leave the stronger ones in there. And they trail over the edge and they get these really nice flowers in. And you can eat nasturtium leaves. They taste a bit like watercress. They've got that sort of spicy taste. They're very nice. So there you go, nasturtiums. Last one I'm going to share with you. Oh no, there's two things. Sunflowers. Sunflowers are great to grow. You do need an outside space to grow sunflowers. Of course, they do grow tall, but you can start them off in a pot on your windowsill. So again, sunflower seeds you can get in your supermarkets or your discount shops. You could even try the sunflower seeds that you get in bird food. Sometimes they will grow, but you're best getting a packet of sunflower seeds. They're not expensive. Start off a pot with one sunflower seed in it. Fill it full of compost or soil, moisten it, put your sunflower seed in and keep it moist. And when your sunflower plant has started to grow, when it gets a few centimeters tall, that's when you have to plant it out into the garden or even into a big pot. But you probably need to be a pot that's outside, needs to be in a sunny position so it gets the sunlight. And sunflowers can grow huge. So they're a really fun plant to grow. There's all kinds of plants that you can grow from seeds and cuttings and bulbs and that. So they're just a few things, but they're quite easy and they're quite fun. So I hope you have some success with those. Last thing is these origami tulips. Now, we've got a YouTube clip that you can access that shows you exactly how you do this. You'll need some paper and you'll need some scissors to cut the paper to size and a ruler before you start. Great if you can get the coloured paper, you know, the green and then the colour of the tulip. But even if you can't, you could make them with white paper and then colour them with your felt tips. They must be easy because I had to go at doing it and I was able to do it. So if I can do it, I bet you can as well. So have a go with that origami tulips. Quite easy to do and they look good. I think they look quite spectacular. And you could make a nice Easter card if you do 2 or 3. You could stick them on your card to make a nice Easter card. So there's some fun things you can do. Each one you'll see when we send out our follow-on activity sheet has got a Children's University stamp code for it. So if you do the activity and you take a picture or take it in to show your teacher, you can clock that up, put it on your Children's University in your Children's University passport and Children's University online if you use that, and you can get a Children's University credit for it. I hope you have some good luck. Sometimes with gardening things, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Keep trying. There's loads of things you can plant, loads of fun things you can do with gardening. I hope you enjoyed the mini masterclass. Thanks very much for taking part today, and hope you all have a nice Easter. Okay, thank you very much.